All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you guys for having us. We'll start off with a little bit. I'll go into the bio soon, but this session we'll be talking with, well, including Lincoln Financial Group. We have a lot of information here about career opportunities and interviewing tips that we like to share with you all. And so for the people that are logged in, for the students, there is a chat feature that we like to use. Amanda, she will be looking at the chat. So if you guys have any questions, you can either feel free to interrupt me. That's not a problem. Or if you want to put the question on the chat, and then but at the end of the session, we'll have like a Q&A panel on that. So, and then also when you have a chance, whatever, if you're using a phone or any device that you have like a tablet, go ahead and take a picture of the QR code that we have there. That will link to our page where it's going to ask you a couple questions, and then you can potentially upload your resume there if you wish. And this is just for us to track our recruiting events. And so for the people that are here on the call, if you don't mind, on the chat, put in your name, your major, and location. So if you're in Fort Wayne or if you're outside of Fort Wayne, we'd love to know a little bit about our audience. And so go ahead and move forward. All right, today's discussion, like I mentioned, we'll talk about career opportunities, kind of what we look for in our ideal candidate, or things that we look for in interviews. And also you'll get like tips and tricks that you can use these interview strategies, either if you want to apply to Lincoln or just in general. Just a great way, especially right now. I think a lot of opportunities, a lot of jobs are opening up now that we're slowly getting into some normality. And I know May is a great time for everyone to graduate. And so hopefully these strategies will help you land your dream career. I'll go ahead and start talking about who I am. My name is Brayan Castillo. I'm actually a formal Ivy Tech student. I attended Ivy Tech and graduated in 2018. I got an associate's in business, and then I went ahead and transferred right away to Purdue University here in Fort Wayne. And I received my degree last year, May of 2020, in organizational leadership. Definitely with Ivy Tech, I've had a great experience. My business classes were very project-based, so that really helped me get some experience in that aspect. I've also involved in student orgs at Ivy Tech with being in Goli Amigos, also being an intern here. So I worked very closely with the career services. So I had an amazing time here at Ivy Tech. So moving forward now, I started Lincoln June of 2020. When I started Lincoln, I actually started from home. I haven't been to the office yet, so it's been a very interesting experience. Not seeing the office yet, or not even having a cubicle or anything, but made my little home office here. So it's been a great experience. Why I chose Lincoln, part of it was the flexibility and work-life balance. Since I'm able to work from home, I'm able to spend time with my pets. As you can see here in the picture, I have my little puppy, Mello, and then one of my cats, Mackie. They just love playing around and they're used to me just being home. And I also have a third cat, but she likes to wander off. But other opportunities that Lincoln offers, just a lot of growth. I really value that on the company's perspective. You can grow from one department to another, and a lot of people here at Lincoln, they really make a 20-year career in one company. And so I think that's very hard to find in Fort Wayne. So I really appreciate that. And then the last thing why I chose Lincoln was their diversity and inclusion initiatives. Here at Lincoln, we have business resource groups, or BRG, as we like to call them. And so you can join these groups. It's kind of like a student org, but at work. And there's different types. I am a part of the Latino BRG and the LGBTQ plus BRG, but there's also African American, BRG and Asian American BRG, and also women's in business. So it's a great opportunity to kind of network and really talk to people that have like maybe a similar background. And I really like that they're very purposeful with diversity and inclusion. Now I'll go ahead and pass it on to Rob.
Thank you so much, Brian. Greatly appreciate that. Well, as Brian said, my name is Rob. I go by many names, but as you see here, Robert Kintz is my formal name. I'm a manager here in the RPS Contact Center here with Lincoln Financial. I've been with Lincoln since May of 2018, and I started in an entry role here in the Contact Center. It's been quite the journey. I quickly realized that this is a home for me. One of the things that I want to talk about with Lincoln is Lincoln's incredible culture. Very similar to what Brian noted. Our culture is, in my opinion, and I'm sure Brian will second this, but second to none in the industry. We've done an amazing job of creating a incredibly diverse culture, very inclusive. We like to say positive and fun as well. So we do our best to bring all those together. From the Fort Wayne area, my family and I recently moved to Kendallville, just a short stone's throw away, so to speak. And just to bring everything back, our pivot during the COVID-19, the movement to work from home has been one of the greatest things that has happened in my professional career. So a huge shout out to Lincoln Financial and everything that we've been able to capture during this time. The leadership approach, the models, outstanding. That truly represents what leadership is meant to be. So the last thing I'll say about Lincoln Financial, of course, is the benefits. There are so many benefits with Lincoln Financial. We do an exceptional job at giving our employees as much as we possibly can. Personally speaking, I'm a father of 3 kids, married for several years now. My wife and I are quickly approaching our 8th year married. So we're very, very thankful for that. We just recently moved into our new home here in Kendallville. And of course, we look forward to speaking with each of you as we continue to grow our personal and professional networks. And with that, I'll turn it over to Amanda.
Well, hello. So I'm Amanda Welch. I'm a recruiting consultant at Lincoln, which means I get the fun job of working with hiring managers and hiring people. So best job in the land, I can definitely say. So I am also located in the Fort Wayne, Indiana location when we are in the office. I started just shy of 6 years ago. So October of 2015. So it'll be 6 years in October. But it'll be my 15th year in the insurance industry this year. So it's been a fun ride. Of course, reasons why I love Lincoln. It's Lincoln in my job, right? So it's both. It's a fantastic company that's had an outstanding reputation. They're wonderful for their employees. We want to make sure people have work-life balance and they have, lives outside of their jobs. And we remind people that they're important, that without them, we don't have a company. And that's just so important. And I'm able to connect new people to the organization and sometimes people within the organization to their right fit within Lincoln. So it's a win-win for me. Always being able to find that the right opportunity, that next step for someone in there or in the organization. I had the opportunity, luckily on my end, to hire Rob and also Brian. So I get the fun job of not only doing that hiring piece with hiring managers, but also getting to collaborate with them after the fact. So that's the best part of what I do and why it's Lincoln. And I think if I had any hesitance after 9 years with my previous company about making that move, because culture I think was the big piece that was like, what is that going to look like? It took no time at all to say this is the best move I've ever made career-wise. So they got me for the long haul. And like I said, just glad to be part of such a great company.
All right, so some of the things that we'll talk about today, there's different career opportunities here at Lincoln, no matter where your path is. First, we'll start off with, we do offer a internship development program. This is a summer internships that's usually between 8 to 10 weeks over the summer. I know last year all the internships were virtual, due to COVID. So it's been a great opportunity, even though things that we can't really control, our Lincoln's being very proactive in that space. And so some of the areas that our internship offers, finance, risk management, customer service, just a whole wide variety of different departments that you may be interested in for our summer internship. We also have an actuarial development program. So if you're into that actuarial science space, we do have a department specifically for that. This is more for both these programs were probably more for your upperclassmen, junior, senior status, or rising junior, senior. What I want to focus on today is our entry level direct hire, which I won't go into too much detail because I'll pass it over to Rob on that part of the presentation. But basically, with the direct hire, these are full-time positions. So if you are a student that you have to work full-time and you only go to school part-time, whether it's just 1 or 2 classes or you have to take them online, this might be the best path for you because one, it offers you full-time employment with benefits, as well as you're still able to go to school part-time. So it's a great opportunity. And I know with many of our Ivy Tech students, a lot of us, we had to work full-time and go to school part-time. So this is, I'm excited to show you guys this part. And then last but not least, we do have a leadership preparation program. So I have to backtrack a little bit. That's where my position's at right now. So basically in our leadership program, it's a college new grad program where after you receive your degree, your 4-year degree, I basically worked for Lincoln for 2 years and doing like rotational projects along the way. And then from there, most people from the program are in an accelerated professional role. So it's a great opportunity. Like I mentioned, no matter where you're at in life, if you're starting Ivy Tech and you're working full time, or if you're at the end of your 4-year degree, you want to move into something professional, there's different stages here at Lincoln for that. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Rob to talk more about our career opportunities in our call center.
Thank you again, Brian. Greatly appreciate that. And, you know, as Brian said, we really do have a lot of opportunity here in our contact center. So to give everyone a quick overview, we work with an employer to provide their 401k, 403b, and 457 plan options to their employees. So this is designed to plan and prepare for their retirement years. The RPS Contact Center, what ends up happening is that we provide across multiple different products in those employer-sponsored plans. And when participants call in, that's who we assist. Now, there are times where certain stakeholders from participants to beneficiaries, even plan sponsors and advisors can all call in. But for the most part, we handle the participant side. Roles available here in the contact center. We have many roles available, but right now I want to highlight 3 of them for you today. The customer service representative role is our main role. It supports all 4 product-based lines, and our bilingual customer service role is the exact same a lineup there. It assists in all 4 product-based lines. However, the bilingual role supports our Spanish and English speaking stakeholders. So there is an opportunity there for our bilingual customer service representative. We also have a web team CSR, or customer service representative, that supports our stakeholders from a technical level with technical issues and accesses to our website. So those roles are available and many others, but those are the ones we're going to highlight today. We do have some requirements. The overall requirements are very simple. So high school diploma or GED, 0 to 1 years of customer experience. So you don't have to have an immense amount of customer experience there to join us in the contact center. The bilingual requirements, however, you do need to have full spoken and written proficiency in Spanish. That is a requirement of the role, and that will be examined during the interview process. Our web team requirements do have a technical acumen, but no specific experience or education are required. A little bit about our growth model before we go to the next slide. Now, the growth is designed to gain knowledge of the retirement plan business and build transferable skills. Now, those transferable skills can carry with you all throughout Lincoln. They're also great skills for the industry if you're looking to get a foot in the door. The supportive leadership that wants to see you succeed, that's an understatement in my opinion. We've got amazing leadership, as I mentioned here at Lincoln earlier, and we want to see you succeed from the very beginning. We've got an inclusive environment built around the people here at Lincoln Financial. And again, that comes back to the culture. But overall, those are some of the highlights. I do want to also mention that we have a tuition reimbursement program that takes place. It's only effective after 1 year of being with the company. So I do want to make sure that that's out there. And we can talk more with you on that in the further steps. All right. So what are we looking for from you? Well, here's the deal. We're looking for a positive attitude and outlook. Why? Because you're going to be talking to people day in and day out. And when you call in somewhere, somebody wants to hear a smiling voice. That's what they're looking for. So we're looking for that inflection to be able to come into work daily and, have a positive outlook on it. The ability to multitask while speaking with clients. So a lot of your role is not only taking calls into this headset here, like I did right when I came into Lincoln, but it's being able to navigate multiple screens, different systems, different programs at the same time. So multitasking in this role is essential. The problem solving and critical thinking skills, if you've got a desire to achieve greatness and really work through complex problems, this role is for you. That's not to say that if you don't have a knack for it, that you can't achieve it at some point in this role, and we've got the resources to help you there. But the problem solving and critical thinking skills are used throughout your day, each and every day of your role. The coachable and willing to accept and apply feedback, we are very, very good at giving a lot of feedback. And the key behind that is that we make sure it's constructive. We want to build you up. We want to raise you to that next level, and we're ready to grow with you. So the coachable and willing to accept and apply feedback is crucial when growing in your role. Flexible and adaptable to a changing environment. I know I touched base on this in my introduction, but when we pivoted during the COVID-19 crisis in the very beginning, Lincoln did a phenomenal job at pivoting very quickly and being flexible and adaptable to that changing environment. We're still going through some of those changes today. And what I will say is that those who are ready, willing, and able to be flexible and adaptable to that changing environment are saying nothing but positive things about what Lincoln's been able to do. So flexible and adaptable to an ever-changing environment is also, it's crucial in this role. Finally, I just want to touch base on this. Comfortable working with technology and multiple systems at the same time. I know that sounds a lot like multitasking, but when it comes to being comfortable with the technology piece, the programs, the websites, the items that you're working with daily are very technology driven. You should certainly have an appetite for technology and the capability behind it. Be willing to sink your teeth into it and adapt to the ever-changing environment that is in the technology space, because we continue to get updates daily. So with that, that's a quick snapshot of what we're looking for here at Lincoln Financial from you. And I'll pass it over to Amanda.
Thank you, Rob. So in terms of next steps, what it would take to join our team. So you do want to complete an application. You will want to complete an application. One of the best ways to directly go to our job board, of course, allow us to be able to capture a little bit of information about you and to look at all the roles that are available and eventually apply, ideally, is by following this QR code. In the chat, there is a bit.ly at the very top, so a really shortened web address as well, which will take you to the same spot. So if somebody wants to use their smartphone on their camera, be able to get to the site, of course it is mobile enabled, but there's also the website as well. So you'll apply. Every application is looked at by a recruiter. So I look at every single one of them individually. Now, not all roles, but definitely this team, and then many others. Should we move forward, of course, with, kind of interview status here, you would go into an initial phone conversation with a recruiter. That would be me in this case. There are assessments that we will do, virtual interview with the team. We use a format very similar to this called WebEx. So you will join the virtual interview, meet with the team. It's usually a couple of managers. Sometimes I'm in there, Brian's in there, Rob's in there. Rob has a counterpart, Joe. He's also a hiring manager. Occasionally our AVP will pop her head in. So it's not all of us at once usually, but a couple of us from an interview perspective. As that interview is concluded, of course, we talk, we debrief, we complete the reference check process. Again, from a moving forward perspective, final candidate review, and then essentially offer and onboarding. So that's a little bit about kind of our process and what that might look like. So again, contact, in all honesty, you can connect directly with me. So if you do have questions before you are to apply, or you see roles that are out there, please don't hesitate. Even if it's not, say, one of mine, I can at least guide you in the right spot and get you to the person who it would be. But I do manage a lot of our roles in Fort Wayne, not all, but many. In addition, of course, I support and have the support of about 15 other me's across the company. So we do have, again, quite a large reach across our roles. So that is my contact information there. As we take a look at some next steps and some pieces, we think about interviews and interviewing. That's definitely one of those topics of conversation that's always, I would say, a tough one for anybody going into a role. So as we take a look at the next slides here, Brian, I'll have you take a look at that. Starting with do's, and then of course we'll go into some don'ts. So these are just some basics. Some basics. I could elaborate on this all day, but I know we only have so long, and we do want to open this up to any questions. But when we think about do's, you've got this interview scheduled, you're prepared, you're ready, you're excited. Arrive early, I would say, but not too early. There is something to be said for that. If we're in person, now understand Lincoln is not right now. Doesn't mean we won't be in the future. But in person, I would say comfortably about 10 to 15 minutes. Much past that, if somebody knows that you're waiting on them, they don't want to keep you waiting on them, even though you're 20 minutes early. So something to be cognizant of, a little bit early, but not too early. From a virtual perspective, in many cases, you can't really join much more than about 5 minutes ahead of time. One thing I would recommend, though, prior to, just make sure that you test your audio and that you're prepared, and that you're also prepared for a backup method. So for example, if you're using your computer, double check just to make sure if you have an iPad or a smartphone, just in case that it's ready to go. Also make sure you charge your computer and your device so it does not die on you. I would say greet everyone with a smile, just be genuine, be who you are, definitely, but people want to see happy people. It can be nerve-wracking, and I know it's easier for those who maybe are not as extroverted to be a little bit more in their shell, especially if you're in a group of 2 to 3 people. So just greet everyone with a smile. Understand it's an awkward process as a whole for most people. 90%, not always hiring managers, but 90% of people who are actually applying for jobs and interviewing, it's a little awkward. Recognize that, move on, just be genuine. As we start into the interview process, we start asking questions. Take time to reflect. Don't feel like you have to know exactly what you're going to say right off the top of your head. In fact, I can say someone who maybe, I would say prepared, yes, but so overly polished, no. I'm looking for someone who, wants to think through something. Many of our questions are thinking questions, how you walk through, how you think about something. Nothing wrong with that. So take time to reflect before answering the question. There is something to be said for someone who's too polished, because I get to know nothing about you. I get to know nothing about you if you're too polished. Of course, as always, just be truthful. Be very truthful. And don't over embellish. If you had a role in a team, don't over embellish what that is, but rather spend time talking about what you did do, and not just, what you think we want to hear. We just want to know more about you. Putting a positive spin on a negative answer or situation. Not all of what we do every day, day in, day out, is always sunshine and rainbows. That is life, right? Life is messy. Work can be messy too. And just because you don't necessarily love a situation, or it was tough, or it was hard, or it was even negative, it was a negative situation, it doesn't mean that you didn't take positives out of it. So take that time to really take a positive spin on a negative situation. So what did you learn from it? How did you grow from that? And again, just keep that in mind. So it's not to say that there isn't situations that are negative. It's just how you deal with them. Ask questions about the interviewer and the company. So you will always have that opportunity to say, do you have any questions for us? And it's about that time you get that deer in headlights look, and you said, oh no, like I got nothing. One always fun tip that I have, and this is something that's just a natural thing about me. I always carry a notebook, Rocketbook, something. I always have a notebook of some sort. I recommend it even if you come into a physical interview where someone can see you taking notes. Start thinking about questions you want to ask before the interview and start checking them off. Chances are, what I can say, a good question to ask hiring managers or managers is, what do you love about LinkedIn? What do you enjoy about your job? How did you grow with the company? So even if it's not specific questions about the job, unless there's, something that's outlying, ask questions about the interviewer. Ask questions about, maybe they didn't talk about how your performance was going to be measured. Ask those kind of questions. It really, not only does it show interest, I think it just keeps us engaged. What is your thinking? How are you thinking about it? Helps us gauge, help you gauge. So being able to ask questions on both sides. So you always feel prepared, have that notebook with you. Check off as you go along. It's also a little fun tip, different piece, but a little fun tip. If you have some things that you want to express, right? I did great in this. Write that down, because in the middle of an interview, nerves may get the best of you and you may forget what you do, how great you are, things that you accomplished. So write those down. If anything, they're just talking points for you. They're just things to say, oh yeah, I remember I did this. So that stressor of an interview, because they are stressful. Some people are better at it than, again, hiding that than others. But really being able to walk through times where you were outstanding. This is your time to talk about how you're awesome. Maintain good eye contact. So even on a virtual platform, look at all of the different interviewers. You can always see them at least across the top or down the side. So as you're replying, look at them as you would if they were sitting across the table for you. Confidence and energy. Energy more than anything, just being excited to be there. You are nervous. That is a normal human reaction to things. But still, being confident in you, what you've done, what you know, that is important. It is sometimes just perception can sometimes be a little bit of everything. And I'm not saying we will make a decision simply based off of how energetic someone is, because that's not always what it is. Somebody can have some really great experience, but not be a super extrovert. You don't have to be, even in, say, the contact center that we talked about. I will say, for truthful purposes, so I don't know if any of you will relate to me on this, I am not an extrovert. Surprise! I am not an extrovert. Most people do not realize that about me. I have a very extroverted job. I love that portion of my job. But when I am done with people, when I am done peopling, I am done peopling. And I need to, I need to recharge in a different way, which is not by being around other people. Some people get energized by that. I can maintain it for long periods of time, but not all day, every day, in the evening, all the time. That's just not who I am as a human. So, can still have energy, can still have all of those pieces, even if you're a little bit of an introvert. And that comes with time, by the way. So don't feel like it's something that I've always just had extroverted jobs. And then the last piece is really just following up with the thank you, with a thank you after the interview. That's something we have been told for years, right? Years. Always follow up with it. Before it was write the letter, before email became the prevalent, most common way of communication. And if you still want to write the letter. I would say in a virtual world, especially as so many companies are going virtual, there's absolutely nothing wrong with sending an email, sending it to each person that you interviewed with, pulling little details out. When, Rob talked about his new move to Kendallville and, what that looked like, if you have something that's outlining there, or again, started in the contact center, worked his way up, anything that you can gather. That's why some of those questions that we have for the interviewers are important, but also where you feel like your skill set aligns, especially if that's a job you want. One thing I will say, even if it's not, send the thank you. Send the thank you. It sticks out. So many people miss this step, and it's not to say I wouldn't hire someone that doesn't do it, but the one who does, like, they stick out. They're at the top of that list, because that follow up and that follow through is so important later on as you progress in your career, to continually do those things, to start doing it sooner rather than later, is just it. Like I said, it makes a difference, and it is a differentiator. It puts you kind of back at the top of that list from that side. So those are some of our interview do's. That is a whole bunch. And again, I could talk about it all day, because this is what I do for a living. Some don'ts. Ideally, we don't want to ask about salary and benefits during the interview. Now, I can say this. So another point to that, it may be discussed during the screening interview. So when I have conversations prior to an official interview with the hiring team, I do discuss compensation on most of my roles. And the reason why, so I'm trying to make sure, are you a great fit for the team? Are we a good fit for you? Are we aligning? Giving you at least some baseline, high level overview of the role. This is what to expect. This is what it looks like. Job descriptions sometimes are not as telling to what the job actually is. So I want to make sure that you get a baseline for what that looks like. So I do speak about salary and benefits and have those discussions, but that's not always done. So the proper place usually is with someone from HR, me, someone like me. Usually that comes at offer, but we can sometimes talk about that beforehand. So I definitely wouldn't, if it hasn't been discussed before, I wouldn't lead with, what's the pay, y'all? Because again, that can definitely be a deterrent. You don't want it to go straight to the compensation. The next piece, criticize past employers, experiences, or yourself. As I mentioned, there are negative situations. That does not mean you need to be negative about it. There is a vast difference there. I've had negative situations in my employment. Did I learn a lot from them? Did I do a lot? Did I say my employer was terrible? Absolutely not. Because again, it was a negative situation. It wasn't a negative employer. So really being very careful if a situation was negative, what that means. It can be a negative situation, but again, the criticism, it was a terrible place to work, never. Because again, it speaks to kind of how you dealt with that situation, which again is not great when it's discussed that way. Use negative, nonverbal, and paraverbal language. So nonverbal, if you're sitting like this the entire time during an interview, you're not engaged. I would say even just posture, leaning forward, being engaged, the head nodding, that kind of lets us know those kind of things. If you're just like, okay. And you can see me on the screen. So, that's not ideal, right? That's not ideal. Paraverbal language. That is how you present information. So of course you can tell I talk with my hands. So I am one of those people. I may be annoying to some people because I'm one of those people. Paraverbal language can also be how you present something. It's things like tone and inflection. Do you talk super fast? Do you talk super slow? And just trying to find that nice pace. I find that I do have to dial that back. I am a fast talker. You probably have heard that. So again, just reminding myself to kind of keep a good pace and not, because it's hard to catch everything somebody's saying if you're talking way, way, way too fast. And that is me as a human. So it is something I need to work on myself. Next piece, chew gum or smoke. I think the smoking thing, you're probably not going to do that inside. You're probably not going to interview outside, those kind of things. You don't want to smoke around your employer. It's socially a little bit more unbecoming. Chewing gum, it's like eating in front of your employer. And there are times where you will have meals. You have to be very careful about what that looks like. Talking and chewing. Chewing gum is the same action, especially if you're in an in-person interview. Mints, I would say over gum any day of the week, especially if you had something lunch-wise, right? Sometimes we love the garlic and we love the onions, but you go to an interview, not everybody loves you. So mints, not gum. And just something to be mindful of from an interview perspective. If it is after lunch, just be mindful of what you eat. Pop in a breath mint, just don't chew gum. Don't act desperate for a job, or on the flip side, as if you can get any job. You know, interest, yes, but I'll do anything, I'll take anything, whatever you tell me to do. I want you to want our job, and you want us to want you mutually. It's not a one-sided path. And I think that that's something that I think can help people in interviews, is recognize you get to interview us just as much as we get to interview you. It feels more like it's one-sided, but really it's not. You choose us just as much as we choose you. If there's something you felt uncomfortable about in the interview or you didn't like, that's a no for you. Just as much as, again, some of these outliers can be a no for us. It's a mutual process. It's a mutual process. It's not a one-sided process. So no need to ever act desperate for a role, or, like I said, on the flip side, that you don't need the job. You don't need the job. It's not a big deal. You know, I can go get any job. Well, then, are you a fit for this role? Maybe not. From that side. Answer questions with just a yes or a no, unless it's, is the sky blue? Yes. You know, things of that nature. Most of your yes, no questions that you would see in any type of interview are actually not interview questions, and probably not questions that people can ask you. Are you married? Do you have children? You know, we can ask those kind of things. So again, those yes, no, most of them are not yes, no questions. Elaborate. You know, I mean, yes, we can say, have you ever worked in customer service? Yes, followed by elaboration. But in most cases, those true yes, no questions are probably not ones that we should be asking anyways, if you dial it down. Discuss personal issues or family problems. There is a time and place for all of that, and it is definitely not in the interview. Now, I will say, as time goes on and you do have something, you know, that comes up and you are employed, yes, there may be times when you have to talk to your leader, but definitely not during the interview process. And then ask to skip questions. Nope, don't like it, not answering it. Next. This isn't a game show. You don't get to skip. You do actually have to answer the questions. The big piece is also understand, though, that you don't have to answer it at the drop of a hat. You know, you can reflect and think on it. You can refer to your notes, which again is why I say bring that notebook. You can do those things, but you can't ask to skip the question. But what you also don't want to do is talk so much around the question that you actually didn't address the question. So a big piece, that's why, like I said, notebook, having notes, whatever that may be, just to remind yourself of the cool stuff that you've done, because you've all probably done some really cool stuff. The interview process is for us to get to learn about that cool stuff. But when you're on the spot, it's hard to remember those things. So those are my do's and my don'ts. Now is the time, I guess, that we open that up for any questions.
So we have two Ivy Tech students with us. Do you have any questions for us? Or for the team from Lincoln? I'm sorry.
That interview information was very good information. Mhm.
Wasn't it? It was
Mhm.
excellent. Yes. Do you have any questions, Samantha, at all? Okay. I do have a question. So a lot of times, when we as coaches meet with students, and we talk with them about interviewing and how to handle interviewing, there might be a student or a graduate who's been maybe let go from a previous job. How would they handle that in a job interview with you there at Lincoln?
Be honest.
Yeah.
Be honest. I mean, I think transparency is an important, just very important in any type of interview process. I will say, even so, if it's a job eliminations are what they are. You didn't do anything. It wasn't something that you did or didn't do. It was outside of your control. Those things happen. If it was, for example, being terminated, be prepared to speak about it. Be prepared to speak about it. And I don't mean give me every nitty gritty detail of the situation, but high level review. This is what happened. This was the situation. This was, my perspective or what had happened. And this was the end, this was the end result, what I've learned from it, what I've done since. I mean, people do make mistakes. There are times when people are let go for policy and procedure violations. Some companies are one and done. I spoke to somebody about that yesterday. Does that mean I will never consider them? No. Those things happen. I mean, those things happen. I will say I've been in a position where I've never been terminated from a role, but I also was in a position in college, or just be 5 seconds right at college. It was a dual role, and it just was not the fit for me. And it wasn't something necessarily where I was terminated from, but I knew that if I had stayed in that environment, I probably wouldn't have been successful. So for me, it was exit stage left, exit stage left before it progressed to that situation. Just wasn't the right environment for me. But these things happen. So be honest about it. If it's asked for on the application before the interview, put it on the application as well. I think it's incredibly important, because what we look at, especially if there is an application that comes along with a resume that's before an interview, what is probably more of a red flag for me, it's not the fact that you have been terminated, it's the fact that you waited until you talked to me to tell me about it.
Okay.
Because again, then it could come up later and it's like, well, I didn't know about this.
Right.
So I would say from application to interview to offer to background, all of that, just make sure that you really are very honest. If we ask a question, and it is a question that we do ask, if you've been terminated from a role, even if it's job elimination, you can say, yes, job eliminated. Yes, small synopsis on what happened. I would rather know than not know and be surprised later on, because that's never a good experience for either party.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate
Absolutely.
that. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions that we can answer? Not just me either, the team.
I do. I was going to say something real quick.
Yeah.
Just like general advice for students, because I think, I have, since being a recent grad, I'm able to like kind of put myself back in the shoes of being a student. And I know my biggest concern when I was in college was, I looked at these jobs on LinkedIn or any like job posting, and I see like, minimum of 2 or 3 years of experience. And then in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't think I have that experience, or it's not 100% direct, like related to it.
Mhm.
And I guess my biggest piece of advice, if you don't have enough experience in that particular, obviously it depends on the job, but everything that you do, it is transferable. Whether say you're applying for just be like a social media person, coordinator, but you only have experience being a cashier at a restaurant or anything along those lines, just try to, and I think Amanda mentioned this before, like write down things that you've done before and then really think about what skills in that position can I transfer to this new role. And oftentimes you might not know exactly what 100% all the skills you need for that role, but at least have some points to talk about. And a good example would be your school projects. And whether you're a business student, nursing student, and IT student, whatever, you're going to have to work in team projects. And so I think that's a very broad topic you can start with. Is in any position, most likely you'll be working with a team. And so if you don't have direct work experience, think about, okay, in this school project, how did I work as a team? How did I communicate? Did I became a leader? Was things of that experience? And you can even say I had a negative experience in a team project, but you, like Amanda said, you always want to come out with something positive. And so even though you don't have that direct work experience, think of school, think of student organizations. If you're involved in that, any position that you have, there's at least one skill that you can transfer and tell that in that interview.
That's excellent. Yes. And we really try to, encourage our students to think about the different experiences they've had if they haven't worked, in a professional job. But what about volunteer work or activities you've been involved in, and, clubs, organizations. So thank you for that, Brayan.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
And I always encourage students to put that information on their resume too.
Okay.
And don't forget about that, because your resume is kind of your promotion tool. So it's your chance to talk about you. And it doesn't all have to be exactly within a very specific box.
Right. Yeah.
Within a very specific box. So we love to see those kind of things. Involvement is involvement. Opportunity is opportunity. Just because it's not paid experience doesn't mean that it's not just equally important experience.
Right.
So I recommend it.
I do have another question real quick. So I know that Rob, you mentioned tuition is available after a year of employment. Is that correct? Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
That is correct.
Okay.
As far as the program goes, I think, we would definitely want to work with the individual that's applying for the tuition reimbursement. There may be some caveats there dependent upon their degree choice or where they're, what path they're going down. There may also be a different set of circumstances that may come into play, like Brayan's talking about with the LPP program. So I would say, without elaborating too much, the best thing they could do is, make us aware during the interview process so that we could really chart that path with them based on that individual's goals, short-term and long-term. The other thing that I'll kind of say in reference to that, I know everything keeps coming back to the interview, and everything Amanda said was amazing. Everything Brayan said was amazing. And this ties into it too. We just want to connect with you. That's what we're looking to do in the interview. So, the one thing that we work with our individuals on that are with Lincoln right now is we have a specific set of guidelines that we speak about career aspirations every single month in a touch base. It's incredibly important to us. So to reference, the tuition reimbursement, that would be such a refreshing conversation to have in an interview, is to already begin to talk about those career aspirations. That would be incredible. So I would highly encourage bringing it up in the interview. I would highly encourage that individual, referring to that. And I think, Amanda would just glow with joy if we could hear that in the beginning, because that tells us a lot about the individual. It tells us what they're looking for and what they're looking to achieve. That's a long-term goal. That's somebody who's here, they're looking to plant some roots. They're looking to grow within the company. So it says a lot about those choices. On the flip side of that, there could also be some different career moves that could be taking place. So we want to make sure that we get that individual in the right job right from the get-go, because this could be a very incorrect role dependent upon what that individual's long-term goals are. So I would say, you know, bring it up in the interview. Let's talk about those career aspirations. But again, when I'm listening to somebody, and you know, we talked about this a little bit earlier, you know, disclose anything in the previous history. I'm very transparent in the interviews. I've been terminated from a role before, and I've had job eliminations before in my past. So I love disclosing that information, because now I can build a connection with you. Now I can get to know who you are. That's what we look for. You know, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a relationship in a very short amount of time to decide whether you're right for us, we're right for you, and it's a pretty quick turnaround. So great question, Joyce. Amazing question as always. But yeah, that's what I would say is, you know, bring it up at the interview. Career aspirations are always amazing things.
Okay, yeah, that's excellent. It's good to hear that too. It's good to hear that Lincoln really promotes, you know, their employees and their careers, their career choices and paths. So thank you for sharing that. Any other
Absolutely.
questions from our Ivy Tech participants today? Okay. It's hard to wait that 7 seconds. It seems like forever. But this has been so great and so excellent. And we are recording, and the recording will be available on our website. So we'll make sure that all of those who need to hear what you've said get to hear it. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Brayan. We love you here at Ivy Tech. So yeah, we do. And thank you, Amanda and Rob. So I'll let you guys end things the way you would normally do that, but thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate you.
Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks, Joyce. Thanks,
Thank you.
Lorna.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
guys. Have a great day.